The monarchy did not tremble because of whispers. It trembled because of a signature. One seemingly harmless stroke of a pen behind sealed palace doors allegedly set off the most shocking royal turning point seen in years. And when King Charles reportedly delivered the chilling words, "The time has come," the mood inside the palace shifted in an instant. Suddenly, this was no longer rumor, no longer royal chatter, no longer a private issue tucked safely behind palace walls. It became a moment that threatened to reshape the very future of the crown. Because if the reports were accurate, then the king who waited an entire lifetime to wear the crown had just taken the first step toward leaving it behind. What unfolded inside that room continues to spark fierce speculation. According to the account emerging from behind palace walls, Charles remained seated after signing the documents. His hand lingered near the pen, as if he still could not fully process what had happened. Witnesses allegedly described a silence so intense it felt almost tangible. The papers were no longer theoretical plans quietly discussed in corridors. They had become reality, a reality capable of transforming every relationship, every obligation, and every future role within the royal family. One senior official reportedly carried the folder away with extraordinary caution, not because it was physically heavy, but because everyone understood the enormous symbolic weight it carried. And as Charles watched those papers vanish from sight, something seemed to change in his expression. For decades, he had waited to become king. For decades, he had prepared for the role. Yet now, according to insiders, he looked less like a monarch defending his reign and more like a man quietly saying goodbye to a future he had spent his entire life pursuing. But if Charles appeared emotional, the response from Queen Camilla allegedly exposed a completely different layer of drama. Sources claimed she read the confirmation message repeatedly, almost unable to accept what she was seeing. Charles had signed. Charles had acted. Charles had apparently decided the moment could no longer be delayed. For Camilla, this was not simply a constitutional development. It was deeply personal. Her position, influence, and future within the institution had always been connected to Charles's reign. If that reign was nearing its conclusion, then countless assumptions suddenly became uncertain. And then came Prince William. The future king was reportedly summoned almost immediately. Those present claimed he did not appear surprised. Yet there was something far more painful visible in his reaction, because expecting something to happen and actually witnessing it unfold are two entirely different experiences. William allegedly lowered his eyes and asked only one question: "Where's my father?" That simple question reportedly stopped the room cold, because beneath all the constitutional procedures, beneath all the planning documents and succession discussions, stood a son confronting the possibility that his father's reign was entering its final chapter. As internal notices quietly circulated through palace offices, aides who normally maintained perfect composure reportedly became unusually silent. They understood exactly what was at stake. Abdication does not merely alter ceremonial duties. It changes power structures. It changes influence. It changes loyalties. It changes everything. Yet those papers represented only the beginning of the crisis. The true challenge was not administrative. It was emotional. Charles was no longer dealing solely with constitutional responsibilities. He was now confronting the consequences as a father, husband, and monarch at the very same time. Every major royal figure was allegedly being pulled into the chaos. Every relationship faced mounting pressure. Every private emotion risked becoming a public spectacle. William reportedly found himself caught between responsibility and heartbreak. Queen Camilla allegedly watched the certainty she relied on begin to slip away. Princess and focused on protecting institutional stability. Catherine, Princess of Wales, quietly prepared for the intense scrutiny that would inevitably follow. And at the center of everything stood Charles, a man trapped between relief and regret, a king divided between obligation and emotion, a monarch allegedly forced to confront the possibility that saving the institution might require surrendering his own place within it. Because once those papers carried his signature, there was no hiding behind delays, no retreating into silence, no pretending the future could simply wait. The choice had been made, and according to palace insiders, William felt the consequences immediately. Sources claimed the prince entered a private meeting carrying a weight unlike anything he had ever experienced. In one moment, he remained the heir preparing for a distant future. In the next, he was reportedly being prepared for a future arriving far sooner than anyone expected. That created a painful contradiction. He loved his father, yet he also had to prepare to replace him. No amount of royal training could ever make that easier. Meanwhile, Camilla reportedly viewed events through a completely different lens. Years of criticism, controversy, and relentless scrutiny had finally brought her to a position beside the king. Yet if the monarchy was shifting toward William's era, difficult questions naturally followed. What would happen to her influence? What would happen to her role? What would happen to the future she believed had finally become secure? At the same time, Catherine reportedly remained focused on William himself. Rather than attempting to soften the reality of the situation, she allegedly concentrated on helping him navigate it. Palace insiders claimed she understood something crucial. The future king was not stepping into a celebration. He was stepping directly into a crisis, and he would need someone steady standing beside him. Then came the moment many insiders now describe as the true turning point. According to reports, Charles placed a signed folder between himself and William. No speech, no grand announcement, no dramatic declaration, only silence. A silence that allegedly said more than any public statement ever could. Father and son looked down at the documents, then looked at each other, and in that single moment both reportedly understood what had begun. But what very few people knew was that the seeds of this shocking decision may have been planted much earlier during a private royal rehearsal. That exposed a deeply uncomfortable truth inside the monarchy. The palace may have wanted the public to believe everything unfolded slowly, carefully, and with royal dignity. But according to whispers allegedly spreading behind closed doors, the real turning point happened long before the signature ever touched the paper. It reportedly began during a private Windsor rehearsal that almost no outsider knew existed. What should have been a routine ceremonial event allegedly became something far more troubling. Sources claim Charles paused unexpectedly during a royal oath rehearsal and looked toward William in a way that left the entire room uneasy. It lasted only a brief hesitation, only a matter of seconds, but inside an institution built upon certainty, even a momentary pause can feel like an earthquake. Palace insiders allegedly noticed it immediately. William reportedly stepped forward naturally, not as a man pursuing power, but as a son instinctively trying to help his father. And according to those present, that simple gesture changed the atmosphere of the entire room. The moment may have been brief, but its implications allegedly lingered for days. Some reportedly saw concern, others saw warning, but everyone supposedly understood the same thing. The future was arriving much faster than anyone expected. Charles allegedly carried that moment with him long after the rehearsal ended. Every conversation, every briefing, every document reportedly seemed to point toward the same uncomfortable conclusion. The monarchy could survive many challenges, but uncertainty at the top was not one of them. And that realization reportedly followed him all the way to the desk where the abdication papers eventually waited. Yet the most emotional confrontation was still ahead. Sources claimed Camilla refused to accept the situation quietly. Before any transition could move forward, she allegedly demanded one final private conversation with Charles. What happened inside that room remains the subject of endless speculation. According to reports, Camilla entered determined to fight for the future they had built together. Charles, meanwhile, reportedly appeared calm but emotionally exhausted. Between them rested the signed papers. Between them sat years of sacrifice, controversy, loyalty, and struggle. Camilla allegedly asked whether this decision came from duty, pressure, or surrender. And according to insiders, that question struck directly at the heart of the crisis. Because every possible answer carried consequences. If it was duty, history would probably celebrate him. If it was pressure, difficult questions would inevitably follow. If it was surrender, the monarchy itself could suddenly appear vulnerable. Reports claim King Charles remained silent for several long moments before repeating only one phrase. The time has come. Those words allegedly ended every remaining debate. For Queen Camilla, insiders say it was the moment she realized the decision had moved beyond emotion, beyond negotiation, beyond persuasion. The future was already unfolding. The papers were signed, the transition was underway, and no amount of personal heartbreak could stop it. Meanwhile, Prince William reportedly found himself stepping into an entirely new reality. Internal briefings allegedly increased. Transition schedules reportedly began appearing on his desk. Senior officials allegedly started preparing him for responsibilities that once seemed years away. Yet insiders insist there was no sense of victory surrounding him. If anything, the opposite appeared true. William allegedly seemed weighed down by the speed of events. Every new responsibility arrived attached to a painful reminder that his father was stepping aside. At the same time, Catherine, Princess of Wales, reportedly became one of the family's most stabilizing forces. Sources suggest she understood the delicate balance required. William could not appear too eager. He could not appear overwhelmed. He had to project confidence without seeming ambitious, strength without appearing cold, stability without appearing detached. According to palace whispers, Catherine helped him walk that impossible line. As preparations accelerated, Princess and allegedly emerged as one of the strongest advocates for institutional discipline. Reports claim she repeatedly emphasized that personal emotions could not be allowed to create confusion around the succession process. To Anne, the survival of the institution reportedly remained the highest priority. While others wrestled with uncertainty and grief, she allegedly focused on ensuring the machinery of the monarchy continued moving smoothly. Soon, the effects reportedly became impossible to ignore. Internal responsibilities allegedly shifted. Meetings reportedly changed. Staff allegedly began receiving revised instructions. Some offices that once revolved around Charles reportedly started coordinating more closely with William's team. Palace insiders claimed the atmosphere itself felt different. Not dramatic, not chaotic, simply different. As though everyone could sense that one chapter was quietly ending while another was beginning. The most emotional moment reportedly arrived during a private conversation between father and son. According to sources, no aides were present, no officials, no ceremonial language, just Charles and William speaking honestly. Charles allegedly admitted that signing the papers felt like losing a part of himself. William reportedly responded that he never wanted the throne to arrive through pain. Insiders claimed those words deeply affected the king. For one brief moment, there were no titles, no ranks, no constitutional responsibilities. Only a father and son confronting the reality of change. When news of the alleged abdication finally spread beyond palace walls, public reaction was immediate. Headlines erupted. Commentators argued. Crowds gathered outside palace gates. Some viewed the decision as an act of courage. Others saw it as heartbreaking. Many simply struggled to believe it was happening at all. Yet through all the noise, one image continued dominating the conversation. A king who had waited his entire life for the crown, allegedly choosing to step aside because he believed the institution mattered more than his own desire to keep it.